Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Aubrey, and for probably the last, I want to say year and a half, I've been posting videos on my fertility journey, going through IVF, trying to conceive, and I'm sorry, I'm out of breath. I'm not feeling very good. For those of you that have been following me, you know I haven't posted a video in probably like 2.5 months or so. Things have just been crazy. The first trimester was really rough for me. So that's why I'm making this video today. Kind of want to catch everybody up on what's been going on and why we've kind of been MIA. So I believe the last video we posted was finding out we were for sure pregnant. I might post another video in between this one now that I'm recording and that one, but we'll see. I'm not really sure yet. So 6 weeks, I think 6 weeks exactly, we had an ultrasound. When you do IVF at the very beginning, you typically get an ultrasound a week. They like to make sure there's like a yolk sac at the very early stage, and then you go a week after to make sure they can find a heartbeat, etc. Excuse, my throat is hurting. So 6 weeks, we had an ultrasound, saw the heartbeats. Yes, beats. There are 2 babies, so we were having twins. They looked great. I will probably put somewhere on the screen what their heart rates were. I don't remember off the top of my head because today I'm actually 18 weeks and 3 days. So it's been a while since we've done a video. So the heartbeats were good, everything measured properly. And then I had the weekend off of work, and I taught myself how to crochet. So I was crocheting all weekend. I was getting a lot of projects done, and randomly while I was sitting there, I felt a gush. And as a female, we know what that means, and it's something you definitely don't want to feel while pregnant. So I ran to the bathroom and was in fact bleeding very heavily. I started panicking. I called my mom right away. I believe, I don't remember if she was at work or not. Anyway, she called my grandma, and they both picked me up. I jumped in the shower real quick while I was waiting. They only live right down the road, but I took a quick shower. I got out. My mom and my grandma picked me up because my husband was working and he couldn't leave right away. I told him not to leave yet. You know, it was kind of later in the afternoon. I think it happened like, it was definitely after 6. I think it might have been closer to 7. I don't remember exactly, but we got to the hospital and they took me back. All the nurses in the ER like were kind of hesitant, and like they didn't make it seem very good. And the OB nurse, or not the OB nurse, I'm sorry, the ER, one of the nurses in the ER came and did a cervical exam, and then they sent me for an ultrasound. During the ultrasound, you know, typically when you go to your OB, they let you watch the screen. The ER, if they do in your town, that's great, but mine, the lady was like, I could lose my job. Like, not just tell me, like, absolutely not, you cannot watch the screen, it's against policy. I kind of guilt tripped her into letting me watch it. Not gonna lie, because I was freaking out. I'm like, are you, like, this is my body and you're really not gonna let me look at what's, like, you don't have to tell me anything. You don't have to be specific or tell me what you see, just let me watch, because I can see, I can look for flutters myself to see if there's heartbeats. So anyway, she ended up, it was an older lady. She was very nice. I do think I made her feel bad, and you know, she gets it. She's done this enough. People have gone through this. The problem is there are some women that get irate in the ultrasound office, and that's, you know, why they have the policy in place. I said, I'm not gonna say anything. I won't let anyone know I seen it. So instead of like turning the screen, basically she's just like, you know, if you can scoot your butt down far enough to where I can see to the ultrasound and you just happen to be able to see the screen, then it is what it is. So that's what I did. I watched the screen. Both babies were there. The heartbeats were strong. Made me feel so much better. Got back to, I will say though, when the nurse picked me up to take me to the ultrasound room, it was like down a few halls, so it wasn't very close to my room. They made me walk, which I thought was not the best considering how heavily I was bleeding. I feel like they should have wheeled me there, either on the bed like they do most of the time, or in a wheelchair or whatever. I shouldn't have had to walk bleeding that heavily, thinking I'm miscarrying, and have to walk all the way down to the ultrasound room and then walk back. But anyways, so ultrasound's done. I'm feeling better because I see heartbeats. I get back to the room. My husband is off work by this time because it's a couple hours later, and he's there. So my mom and my grandma leave after, you know, they make sure everything's fine. The OB nurse came down and was like excited to tell me the news. I acted like I didn't know anything because obviously I wasn't supposed to look at the screen. But she was like, they have strong heartbeats. We don't know why you're bleeding. We don't really see a hemorrhage because subchorionic hemorrhages are very common with IVF. So basically they just sent me on my way, say if it gets worse or if I like soak a pad in an hour, I think it was, to come back. So we left, and next morning I wasn't bleeding at all. It was completely gone, and I haven't bled since. The results showed up in my portal, and even though they told me in the ER that it wasn't an SCH, or they didn't think it was because they didn't see it, the notes from the ultrasound clearly said there was a spot shown between, I think it was above one of the babies or like right under one of the babies. I don't remember which one, but it said it corresponded with a subchorionic hemorrhage. So whatever, I guess that's what it was. So I called my OB Monday, and they couldn't get me in, but my doctor wasn't there on Monday. She doesn't work on Monday. So I went in Tuesday for a checkup. They did an ultrasound. Babies look great, and they even said the spot, because they compared the ultrasound photos from the ER to the Tuesday. So 3 days later, and the SCH had significantly shrunk and was resolving on its own, and they said typically that does not happen, especially not within 3 days. It usually takes a long time. I know most women I've followed that go through IVF or have had SCH in general typically struggle with it for months and have ongoing, like on and off bleeding for months during their pregnancy. I was lucky enough not to, but that is not where the ER visits end, unfortunately. So that was my first ER visit, like I said, 6 weeks. 2 weeks later, so I don't know if I mentioned, but I had extreme nausea my first trimester. Basically, since I got a positive pregnancy test, like the nausea was unreal. I didn't actually throw up, which with my son 11 years ago, I threw up constantly. I couldn't keep anything down. I couldn't even eat a banana, like couldn't drink water. I was throwing up constantly with him. This time I felt like nausea worse, but I never actually threw up. So the nausea was bad, and the doctors don't like subscribing or prescribing it's prescription med, Zofran in the first trimester, I guess. So she told me to start taking Unisum and B6, and I started it, and it did help. It was nice. I would still get nausea. Sometimes I would have to take like half a dose later in the day, which my doctor okayed. But I would take a full dose at night before bed. However, 2 weeks after the bleeding incident, I could not pee. Like, literally could not pee on my own. I felt like I needed, like, my bladder was about to explode, like I was gonna pee my pants, and I would go to the bathroom and nothing would come out. So I called my doctor, obviously, because I was like, nah, that's not normal for somebody that wakes up like 4 or 5 times at night to go to the bathroom. And I didn't wake up at all to go to the bathroom, and then I wake up and I can't pee was very not normal for me. So I called my doctor, and they said, turn the water on in the bathroom while you're trying to go. If you still can't go, you need to go to the ER because we don't know like what the issue is. So throughout the day, my son had a baseball game that day. I would get little trickles out, not enough to relieve me or to feel like a lot better, but it started coming just a little bit. So I was like, well, we'll hold off on the ER because it's a very pricey bill for me to go to the ER, even though I have good insurance. So at the baseball game, my mom had been talking to one of her coworkers who happened to be a nurse, and she had told my mom, no, she needs to go get checked. It could be a UTI, and that can cause early labor and pregnancy. So my mom's freaking out. She gets me all nervous. So, and this was a Sunday, 2 weeks later on a Sunday. So I go to urgent care because doctor's offices aren't open, and they have me pee in a cup. I got enough out to be able to do the test, thankfully, and they ran it and they didn't detect any sort of bacteria, UTI, anything like that. So the physician assistant or nurse practitioner, whatever she was that day, said, with you being pregnant with twins, like, you're responsible for 3 lives now, and it's not a UTI, and I can't tell you why you can't pee properly, so I need you to go straight to the ER to get checked, because there could be a blockage that we don't have the equipment for to like be able to find out. So I call my husband, he's at work again, and I tell him I'm going to the ER, and don't leave, it's fine. Like, I don't even remember what time it was at this point. I think it was like early afternoon-ish maybe. And I get to the ER, they want you to pee in a cup again. And I don't remember if I could when I first got there or not. I feel like I felt like I needed to go really bad when I got there. So I think I was able to when they took me back to the room. To go in a cup again. And then it was the first time I was able to relieve my bladder, like, the most that entire day. And I told them that. But trying to think. It was a while ago, so I'm trying to think of like where things happened. I think I went in the cup, and then they came back in with one of the old ultrasound machines, like, for your bladder, and they wanted to see, because I had just gone to the bathroom, if any liquid was retaining in my bladder. So they ultrasound my bladder, and it was like 249 milliliters, I believe, which is like over half of what, like, later on I'll get to another story, but I was told 400 milliliters is typically where someone's like, all right, I need to go to the bathroom. So right after peeing, they did the ultrasound like within 5 minutes of me using the bathroom, and there was already 249 milliliters in my bladder. Because I told them, I said, I still feel like I need to go. They're like, oh, there's no way, like you literally just went. I'm like, I'm telling you, I feel like I need to pee. So literally nothing really came out of this appointment. It was a waste of my time and money. They had a nurse come in. They basically told me that I needed to poop more. Listen, honey, I'm lactose intolerant. I have no problems going to the bathroom. I never have. And I told them that. I said, I go multiple times a day. That's always how it's been. And I said, oh, it doesn't matter. You can still be constipated even if you're going multiple times a day. So they told me to take fiber gummies, and they set me on my merry way. So this not being able to use the bathroom was an ongoing problem on and off. Like every couple days I'd wake up and I would not be able to go to the bathroom. So I'd be driving to work. My work's about 45 minutes away. Hi, Soki. Hi. So I would try to go before work, obviously, because it's a 45-minute drive. And I'd get to work and I'd be like running to the bathroom because I feel like I was gonna pee my pants. So it's an ongoing problem. I actually, the very next weekend, I think, I was supposed to work at my second job. I was halfway to work, and I had called my doctor before I left because I could not even get a dropout. And it was to the point where like it was hurting because my bladder was so full. I called them. They called the on-call doctor, and I left for work. I was working at Tractor Supply at the time as a second job because they cover IVF. I ended up leaving. That'll probably be a whole nother video. I'll talk about my Tractor Supply experience, but I got the job after we had already done our retrieval, and it was like right before, like a few days before my transfer. So I knew the insurance wouldn't cover it then, but we weren't expecting the first transfer to take. They usually say an average of 3 transfers before you get a successful transfer. So I got the job so that I could have the insurance. Ended up not needing it. But like I said, so I'm halfway to work, and the doctor calls me back. They're like, you need to go to the ER right now because this has been an ongoing problem, and they don't know why it's happening. So I start crying because I don't want to go to the ER again. And I didn't want to have to call off work because I've already had to miss work for different issues with this pregnancy, the bleeding being one of them. So I had to call my boss, and I feel bad. I'm crying. I called and left a message telling her I'm so sorry, but I'm not going to make it in. And I was opening this day. And we're already short-staffed, so I don't like calling off work. But so I turned around, I get home, my husband's like, why are you back? I said, well, they tell me I need to go to the ER, blah, blah, blah. Well, I told him, I said, I'm going to wait another hour or so. If I still can't go, then I'll go. Well, it was like the last time where I got a couple trickles out, and then it was progressively a little bit more and more throughout the day. So I didn't end up going to the ER that day. But the week after, so 2 weeks after my last ER visit, I was going to my normal job, my full-time job. I work for law enforcement agency, and I could not pee at all when I woke up. And I get to work, I try to get to work between 6:30, 7, and because I like to be early. I told myself, okay, if I get to work, usually I can pee a little bit. So if I get to work and I still can't go, I'll go to the ER because it's not that far from work. Well, I get to work feeling like I'm gonna pee my pants again. And it was so bad this time I couldn't even stand up straight. It hurt so bad. I was like waddling, bent over, couldn't go, not even a single drop. So I tell my lieutenant, I said, I'm really sorry, but I have to go to the ER. And then I said, I'll keep you updated. I'll text you, let you know what's going on when I'll be back. So I leave, I go to the ER. I still can't pee, so I can't pee in a cup. I tried multiple times because, like I said, my bladder was screaming. I was in so much pain. They ultrasounded me, which was very uncomfortable, and they said, you know, they wanted to check the babies too, look for heartbeats. And I was watching the ultrasound tech as he was doing it. He did like my lower stomach, up the side a little bit, and then on my back, looking at my kidneys. And I was watching his face, and he was kind of just stoic the whole time. And I'm like, okay, well, what's going on? He's like, well, I know you say you're having twins, but I only see one baby. I can only find one baby. I'm like, well, I know there's two in there. So what had happened is my bladder was so enlarged that it was covering the whole second baby. When they ultrasounded it, it was, well, I don't know that they took the actual measurements on how much liquid was in there, but they ended up bringing the catheter in. They had to straight cath me, and it's not fun. It's just not, but like, it was like instant relief. They put it in one of those like portable plastic urinals that they have like for after surgeries and stuff, and it was 650 milliliters, and that's when the doctor had one of the urology doctors had came in and was like, you know, when it gets to be about 400, people have to go, like they need to go to the bathroom. So your bladder was being like stretched beyond what it should have been, because you know, you couldn't go to the bathroom. So we straight cathed me once, and it wasn't even an hour. I don't even think it was an hour later. The doctor comes back in, and I tell him, I said, I need to pee so bad. They're like, well, there can't be that much in there. They came back in with the ultrasound machine and checked, and my bladder, it was over 400 already. It was like 450, I think. So they're like, that's, you know, we just cathed you. You shouldn't have. And I hadn't been drinking anything. So they just cathed me, got 650 milliliters out, which was a lot. And then not even an hour later, without drinking any fluids or having IVs, my bladder was already past the capacity again. So they basically told me, look, you're gonna have to go home with a Foley cath if you can't pee. I'm like, well, I don't want to do that, so I'm gonna try to go again. So went to the bathroom, like almost in tears because I can't get a dropout, and I don't want to go home with a catheter in. But to go back to the room, the nurse asked me how it went. I said nothing. So they ended up having to put a Foley cath in, and they drained me first. They put the Foley cath in and then drained it completely before like putting the bag on my leg, and it was 750 milliliters. This was like an hour after they had already emptied me. So I had to have that in. This was a Monday morning I went in, and they wanted me to get it out Wednesday at the OB. So I made an appointment with my OB, but she ended up calling me either later that day, or I think it might have been Tuesday, because she doesn't work on Mondays, and said, well, I don't feel comfortable doing it here because like our nurses can take them out, but we don't have Foley casts to put back in if we take it out and you still can't go. So she had an emergency referral to a urologist and got me an appointment. Was it Thursday? Might have been Thursday instead. So I went in super excited on Thursday, take this thing out, because I'm telling you, it hurt so bad. I had to lay, like completely lay down flat, or it hurt. It hurt to stand, it hurt to walk, it hurt to pee. It hurt unless I was laying down. It was the worst experience ever. And I go in Thursday, and the doctor won't take it out. He says your bladder was so distended, like with the 650 and then the 750. He says it needs time to go back to its normal size, because if I take it out now, it's possible that you won't be able to control it still, and you still might not be able to use the bathroom. So I'm super upset because I'm so uncomfortable, and I think I had to leave it in until the next Monday. I'm pretty sure I had to leave it in over for 3 more days over the weekend, and I was so upset about it. So I had this catheter in for a week. Finally went, I got it taken out, and what they do when they take it out is they deflate the balloon that keeps it in, and then they insert just like saline water into your bladder, and they tell you like, hey, when you feel like you need to pee, let me know. So I did. He goes, okay, 1 more syringe full of this water, and then I'm gonna take the catheter out, and you're gonna go in this like the bedside pan, so I can make sure like what I'm putting in, you're putting out, to make sure you can go. Thank God I was able to go, because that thing was not, I was telling him, I said, look, you're not putting that thing back in. You're not putting it back. It's coming out, it's staying out. So what we figured out, and I told the ER this when they put the catheter in, is because they asked me what medicines I'm taking, and I told them, I said, well, you know, I'm taking Unisum, and I Googled it because, you know, Google knows everything, right? And because my husband kept saying, well, what if it's that? What if it's that? So I looked up the side effects, and bladder retention was a side effect. It was a rare side effect, but it was a side effect of Unisum. So I remember the ER. Okay, sorry if the the angle changed a little bit. I literally ran out of storage on my phone. So I think where I stopped was I told the nurse I was taking that. Maybe that's a problem. He went and talked to the resident, came back, was like, you should be a doctor. You should, or no, you should have MD behind your name, because we were pretty sure that's what it is. So when I went and talked to the urologist later that week, they ended up putting Unisum on my allergen list, because I was one of the lucky few that had that side effect of bladder retention. So I missed a whole week of work because of that, and was absolutely miserable. I don't recommend going home with a catheter. And the ones, they didn't send me home with like a soft one. It was like one of the like thicker silicone ones. It was awful. But yeah, so those were my 3 ER visits. Hopefully the last of this pregnancy, because let me tell you, it was a very rough start to this pregnancy. And now, after I got into the 2nd trimester, probably around 14-ish weeks. Yep, I would say 14 weeks, because I'm 18 now. Nausea basically went away. However, the nausea left, and when I tell you I've had a migraine or a bad headache every single day since then. It has been about 4 weeks now, so a month. Every single day. I'm not lying. It's awful. I've had migraines before. I went vegetarian because of migraines in the past, and they've done CAT scans on my brain to make sure I didn't have tumors in the past, about like 8-9 years ago. And they can never find anything wrong. They tried medicines never help. And now that I'm pregnant, there's not much you can take for migraines. You're allowed to take Tylenol, Benadryl, drink some caffeine. So that's what I was doing, and nothing would even touch my headaches or my migraines. So they ended up, I went to a maternal fetal medicine, and I ended up being prescribed, it's like the Tylenol with the caffeine in it. But that's it, and honestly it hasn't been helping, so I'm really hoping this is just a phase like the morning sickness was, and it goes away soon, because I would rather be nauseous. I'd rather be throwing up every single day than having a migraine and a bad headache every day, because I'm absolutely miserable constantly. But I'm sure I will update you guys on that in the future, depending on how that goes. But this video is already like almost a half hour long, so I am going to wrap this up. Definitely I'm going to try to post a little more frequently. I'd like to do like weekly updates for each week of my pregnancy. So that's going to be a goal, so at least I'll have one video a week. And once we do the baby shower and like the registry, the nursery, like I'm gonna put more videos in as we go, but hopefully I start feeling better. And yeah, all right, well, if you guys made it this far, I appreciate it, because I know it's a long video. It's been a while, so I had a lot to talk about to update you, but I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks.